And now she is sexy, seductive, always impeccably dressed, and a fashion icon. This stereotype of the Parisian woman has long dominated movies, television shows, and even books about France. But a new book by Franco-American author and journalist Lindsey seeks to deconstruct that image. Through profiles of 40 women, La Nouvelle Parisienne, The Women and Ideas Shaping Paris, she paints a more complete picture of the women who are marking life in the French capital and beyond. Lindsey, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You are, of course, an American, but have been living in Paris for more than 10 years now, if I'm not mistaken. Why was it so important for you to deconstruct this image?
Well, I think it's really problematic for a number of reasons. One, for everybody who looks to Paris and its citizens as sort of a model of lifestyle and a way to behave and think and look. But also it excludes so many women who are born and raised or are in Paris or from outside of Paris and who feel this tremendous pressure to look like something that is simply not meant for them to achieve. And I think this standard is very dangerous, and it also reflects a certain way we tend to talk about women. So Paris, as the universally sort of beloved capital, by extension, its people are also sort of fetishized and romanticized. And that's a very dangerous territory, I think, to keep going down, especially with everything we're trying to do globally in terms of representing people with greater humanity and greater accuracy.
Okay, great. So more representation, I think, as an American, me too. I think we've all kind of felt that pressure to correspond to an image that is very difficult to attain, as you say. Do you think that difficult image to attain, that traditional cliche of the French woman, is more a reflection of how men in France or abroad view French women, or do you think that it's something that French women themselves have adopted over the years?
I think it's both. I think, unfortunately, this is something that gets nurtured and protected and upheld by both people, by both men and women. And I think the thing to consider is when we look at the media, we look at magazines, we look at advertisements and film, and we see these representations over and over again. You have to ask yourself, what is at stake? Why is this the image of a certain people we keep seeing? What good does it do? And I think it says something about the way decision makers and men and women in power view Frenchness, and what do they want to communicate to the outside world about what it means to be from this place. And I think that's where you get some very uncomfortable answers, because that's why it gets perpetuated over and over again. But it also sells billions of dollars of products and ideas and and attitudes, and so it's very hard, I imagine, for a lot of big corporations to change their formula if it works.
Okay, and so how did you, as an French-American woman, choose these 40 new women that better represent, or in any case, more adequately represent what it's like to be a woman in Paris today?
I looked at my circle because there are certainly women who are part of my network or extended network who I think are doing really important things, whether they're French-born or foreign and living in the capital. And I looked to women I really admire and whose work I've followed for years. Rokhaya Diallo, the journalist and activist, I've been following her for years and think she's absolutely a crucial voice in our not just the city, in our country. Women like Lauren Bastide, but also jewelry designers and architects and women who I've had opportunities to meet through my journalism work as well, and who I knew would be people I'd want to go deeper with and spend time talking to. And then, of course, there were recommendations. I mean, women want to recommend other women, and that's really exciting and helpful. And so, I kind of needed 3 books to be able to do, to include all the women I would have loved to include, but it's a good reflection of people I knew and then women who these particular women would recommend. And so that's a nice sample.
Okay, and so it sounds like you've got kind of a diverse, even though it's just 40, a very diverse in all senses of the word, collection of women that you've chosen. I'm sure it's a difficult question to respond to, but if you did have to sum it up in a nutshell, based on your profiling of these 40 women, how would you describe La Nouvelle Parisienne?
I would say this is a woman who is challenging notions of femininity, of gender norms, of what it means to be working and creating and building in a city like Paris. They are perseverant. They are they look at this city as still an opportunity to liberate themselves. Of course, there's still obstacles. It's not a perfect place, but these are women who are willing to overcome those barriers, and Paris, in everything that it offers, allows them to do that.
Okay, and we all know that France is kind of very attached to its image, its traditions, its culture. In speaking to the women that you've profiled, do you think that French women too have adopted this new vision of the new Parisian woman, or do you think that it's almost kind of like an Americanized or even a British view of what it's like to be a French woman?
I think that you can find both answers to that question. I think there are still women who are, very traditional in their views about feminism, probably more universalist, thinking that, this whole movement of very vocal and socially engaged women, are forgetting that we're all in the same fight. And that's not exactly true. And so I think there are some women who aren't necessarily adopting or adhering to this new vision, but then there are plenty who are. And I think it's very easy to say we're importing things from the US or from the UK, but in fact, these are women, for the most part here, who are pulling their inspiration from all parts of the world and all corners of their own city. So I think I see that a lot, this idea that, that everything is an American import, and I think it's a little too easy of an answer to explain why this movement, to change the narrative around women in general, is so powerful.
Okay, and do you think that there's something specific, given that it's kind of, as you say, been influenced by international movements, do you think that there's something specific about the French woman in contrast to an American woman or a British woman or a Nigerian woman? Is there something French about her?
I think she is reacting to the conditions locally and the policies here. There are certain things that have advanced faster in other countries. And so, for example, PMA, or, medically assisted procreation, which is still on the table. It's still not something that, single women or lesbian women can access with any ease or legality in France. So that alone, I think, things like that, things like pay inequality that's, might be very different here versus other countries, shapes the fight here and the way that French women are sort of organizing themselves.
Okay, Lindsey Tramuta, this is a topic that I could go on talking about for hours, but unfortunately we are crunched for time, so we're going to have to keep it there. But thank you so much, Lindsey Tramuta.
Thank you so much.
Author and journalist. It is time now for a reminder of our top world headlines. It is officially the end of an era in Israel, the country's parliament just barely approving a new coalition government, closing the chapter of Benjamin Netanyahu's 12-year rule. Joe Biden sets out to revitalize NATO after years of tension under his predecessor, Donald Trump. The alliance is expected to focus on a collective response, both to perceived Russian aggression as well as China's military and economic rise.